Okay, in this lesson, we're going to continue with SpongeBob. I know last lesson at the end I said we'll get more creative here on out. Well, one last technical instruction, and then we go all out fun. And that is, I want to make sure we're going to come up with a finished character, because in our art kit we have our color pencils, and we have a nice marker here. Again, color pencils here. So I want to go over using those and getting you to submit a finished version of our SpongeBob character. So you can base that on the one you've already done, or if you want to review and fix and tweak your SpongeBob character and use that as the basis to do a cleanup and color, that would be great. Then after this, we'll get into some creative stuff where you can do your own thing and hopefully have fun with that. So with this one, we'll be going over those submitted for the SpongeBob. And then when you go to the color, you can do some tweaks and fixes or redo, or just use the one that you've got, and that's all fine. Things I want to make sure structure this 3D dimensional character is that perspective. And again, I'm using a straight edge this time, so we can really take a look that things are going towards the vanishing point, and that could be well outside of our page. And that, in fact, even this way, things are kind of tapering off very, very slightly, but are slowly getting smaller, the lines here, just to reinforce that perspective. And all that means is that we have our horizon line, which is around here. So that's getting really technical. I just want you to be aware and how it affects the character, especially something as simple as SpongeBob. But what we want to do is a cleanup at this point. So if you tear the drawing out of your booklet so that you've got the finished piece of artwork here, what we want to do is put it underneath another page. Now this can be tricky. I've got probably a more ideal setup, but there's a number of ways you can do this. And what we want to do is trace off our original onto another clean piece of paper, and then trace it very, very lightly. So I'm saying I've got a better setup is because I press a button and a light comes on, I can see underneath. You can achieve the same thing by putting your artwork up with another piece of paper on top of a window, or if you happen to have a glass table, put a light underneath it, whatever. Otherwise, just color in what you've got. But I want to go through the proper process of doing a cleanup drawing. So I'm going to use the blue, and I'm going to go over very, very lightly, but as accurately as I can go over. So this, I don't want to do a working drawing where I'm scribbling everywhere. This one, I want to be very precise in tracing over all of those elements. And even with some light in behind, be it natural light from a window, or if you can get a light underneath a piece of glass, plexiglass, anything. What I have, if this is something you want to pursue, I have a digital light tablet. And it plugs in using a USB into my computer, and away I go, and then it's just a press of a button. So if this is the sort of thing you want to do, that's exactly what you need, and it's really for this cleanup stage, because if you've gone to all that work of doing roughs and coming up with a character design, you don't want to go through it all again. So once you got a drawing nailed down that you really like, then go over it very, very carefully. Very, very, take your time. I'm probably going faster than necessary. But again, I'm trying to keep the video a shorter length. Don't want it to be over length. So you take as much time as you need. These are tough, these circles. So quite often I like rotating the page, which I will do in the cleanup stage. I'll show you what I mean. And again, when you're copying over, think of the 3 dimension, what it is that line is representing. And making sure that it looks like what it's supposed to, that these lines are coming together to look like the object, in this case character SpongeBob, as closely as we can. Okay. So if you've gone through all that blue, working out perspective and structure and getting all that working, let's not ruin it by doing a quick and inaccurate tracing onto this page so that we retain all the good stuff from that original drawing. So it's taking your time. Again, I'm freehanding everything, which you should be able to do, but with super straight edges like the square pants, you could use a straight edge if you want. There's no real restriction of how you're going to approach things. But think of, like, inside the sleeve, think dimensionally. Make sure that that final committed line, which is the pencil line that you did over top of the blue original, now it's improving. Every step should be an improvement on your drawing. Okay. And now, here we go. Just finishing off here. And again, you can take your time getting this, because this, and again, I'm doing very light blue. Hopefully you can see it. That's so I'm going to go over top of this. Once I've done color, I'm going to go over top of this light blue line with that black marker and do a finish line. Okay, so here we go. Just wrap this up. And again, I've probably done this much faster than I should. Here, if I turn off that light, you can see that nice clean line drawing, hopefully. And again, if you made some mistakes, whatever, again, the thing with this blue, not the blue I like using, but it came with the kit, is that it doesn't erase all that well, but it's not too bad. So what we can do is start working with our color pencils. Now what I recommend is they come sharpened, but they're very, very short and blunt. And you don't want to color with that real sharp point, because what happens there is that you get this sort of thing. It's just, so what I like doing is really once use your sharpener, get it nice and sharp, and then I go over and blunt that down so that I got a nice broad edge here that fills in nice and solid and not, you know, a real fine point. So I've done that with all the colors that I want to use. I've sharpened them and then gone over and really worked them on another piece of paper. So maybe you can see that pretty good here about my focus, but you can see where it's kind of get a wedge shape to it. So that way you get a nice broad surface of color. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So what I like doing is coloring. Before I get into a final line, I like coloring things. And again, he's SpongeBob. He's yellow, like a sponge. So we can start filling all that in. And we can mix and match colors here. I want to be careful not on the sleeve, because that's white. I'm going to try and be accurate here. Not sure how well the color's reproducing on this camera, but get the idea. Anyways, I'll color most of the character. I'm not sure if we'll get it totally finished during this video, but it's just to get you all set up and start it and try adding some color to your character. And again, yeah, we've got a square sponge, but has a human face. That's all cool. That's what, you know, it's all about character. Characters are all personalities. Uh-oh, I got some. This is where I'm going too fast. Take your time. Getting color into that white of the eye, that's not good. So anyways, I'm doing a pass of getting this color yellow down where that would show up. And again, I'm going very fast. You can take your time, but you can see with that very blunt edge here, that wedge sort of shape kind of gives me a nice solid color. Don't do it with that very sharp point. Don't want to do coloring in big areas with a sharp point. I want to go with the blunt end. And now that same yellow color is really his flesh tone. So that is his arms and hands and fingers. I'll color all that in. Over here as well. So it's just laying down a base color, and that little bit of the leg here, and the rest is socks. Okay. So what I want to do is, we're talking about depth and dimension on a character. So we want to get that across not only in our drawing, but in our coloring. So what I'm going to use here is maybe use a little bit more bluntness. They've used just an off grain. Again, we're limited in colors here, but I'll give it a shot. See what I can. Well, maybe I won't use green. Well, yeah, hang on. I'm going to use green just in holes here. And again, if you can find, and you could probably readily find this image that I've used online, and you can find, the one that I used as reference for this drawing in the first place was in color. So I've got color reference. So you can go by this version that I have here for the color, or you can be, well, and again, you can be creative if you want to try some of your own colors. That's all good too. But if you're interested in keeping a character on model and looking at how he looks and wanting to keep it on model even with color, you can try and replicate the colors. But you can see I laid down yellow first and then lightly going over top with another color just to change that color. And in this case, I had yellow down, so now I'm using an orange. And again, I've gone into my white sleeve here. Not good, not cool. Again, not sure how good the pencil crayons erase, but again, don't race as fast as I am. Take your time. So here we go. So you can see we're starting to get some depth and dimension just by layering our colors. What's not, if you look this up, what they don't do, because this is a simple animation character, they do very flat colors. But since this is an illustration, a one-off drawing that we're doing, we can use shading to help reinforce the 3D qualities of the character. So here's a puffed out cheek. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a little bit of shadow at the bottom half, with a little darker in the middle. And the same with the nose, because it's protruding out. I want to give the idea that that nose is dimensional. So I'm going to give it some shadow underneath. And sometimes when we add shadow, we darken it at the top a little bit and then let it fade, but then we don't take it right to the line. We leave a little bit of the yellow coming through, so it's reflective light. So whatever tricks we can use to get this character to look dimensional is what we do, particularly from the color point of view. We want to reinforce that. So here, the bottom lip, I'm going to go over it with the orange as opposed to the blue line, or which will ultimately be a black line. So I want to get brown color. I want to do inside the mouth. And you see I'm doing all this with the just the blue line, because the very last thing I want to do here is add my black line, and that's to help me clean it all up. And you'll see what I mean shortly. I'll just get the top half of the character as colored as I can, and then I will start using the black marker to get some clean line. And in that process, I like moving the drawing around, especially for a final clean line. And I'll show you what that means very shortly. Let me see, I'm going to get the tongue color here. What can I use for the tongue color? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a little mixture here. I'm going to, let me see, I'm going to put some yellow down. And then I'm going to put just a little bit of red. So I'm using the red color here. So this is where you got to use some finesse. I'm going to kind of go over it with some white to help blend it together. And hopefully that comes off as maybe a little bit of pink for the tongue. Maybe that's not working out the greatest. That's something to play with. See how it can blend together, so we can do that with the markers. We can kind of lay them on top of each other relatively well. So here again, we have very limited colors that we're playing with here, but hopefully gives us a good idea of kind of blocking things in. So I'm going to color in the tie. He's got a very red tie, but being careful because the shirt is white, so we don't want to get our color mixed up in there. Let me see, I'm going to try and blend a little bit of the orange in here just to get that red to pop best we can. There we go. And then the next is the pants. SpongeBob square pants. So we're going to take a look at the pants. So it's going to be similar in color to inside the mouth. And you know, we can even add to the inside of the mouth color to get that really working for us. And again, I'm trying to be careful not to get into areas that I don't want that color making a mess of. So just in again. So here I'm going to try and again, that broad base that I'm coloring with on that I've wedged into the pencil crayon just to get a better overall coverage and not making it look too streaky if possible. Okay, so here we go. So I got the front of the pants, and again, you can darken that in as much as you like or not. The big thing is over here, this is the pants fading off. So here it could be where you just really press harder to darken this to help get that effect of the pants in dimension on that side 3/4 view. But also this is the pants down here, so short pants. But what we can do again for depth, we can go darker at the top and then let it stay light at the bottom. Yeah, just to get that dimensional view. There we go, we can go dark down here. Okay, there we go. So here I'm going to use, I might have gone a little too dark on in here, but that's okay. We can add a little of that shade, and maybe a little more subtle this time, just a little bit more of a shaded area under the arms here, or even in this case at the sleeve. And wherever you want to add, just, and again, try and be subtle, just to get that effect of some dimension there. Oh, so the last thing I'm going to do, and okay, where'd my blue go? The blue that I was just tracing with. Did it fall? Oh, here it is, rolled away on me. So I want to do the eyes using the same blue I did my outline with, but I can be a little bit more solid because SpongeBob's got very blue eyes. So there's two circles here. And one, the center, is the pupil of the eye, and the outer ring is the iris, which is the color of the eye. And that's something that can be unique to each character that you design, come up with, is what color are their eyes, as along with hair color and all that sort of stuff. Okay, now I'm going to get into the marker part. Okay, so this is what cleans it all up. So since we've already got a nice clean drawing, what I'm going to do at this point is kind of start wherever you like, but you can start in the middle if you like. And this is where you take great care of drawing the line. So there we go. Here's that. You know, what can be done here, which isn't in the version I'm looking at is you can have a little highlight on here. I didn't do it on this one, unfortunately. I just thought of it as I came to this one. And sometimes that gives a lot of depth. So here I'm trying to do the outline here. This is where I like moving my artwork around, because I like moving the artwork, especially where I got curves, to the natural I'm just gonna make sure my focus is on curvature of my wrist, so that I'm not fighting against which way my hand and arm want to go, that I'm trying to make it easy for myself by having the artwork rotate with the natural arc that my wrist wants to go. That's really important too. If you draw for a living, you can end up having sore wrists and joints and things because you're working them so much. So always like drawing in a way that will make it easier. So I know in my career I've had many a long day and late night trying to meet a deadline. And if I forced my hand, wrist, fingers, everything, trying to work away on a drawing, and within an hour my arm's sore and I can't draw anymore, there's no way I'm going to make it a deadline. It's going to be a hard way to make a living if you can't do a lot of drawing. And to make a good living, you want to do a lot of drawing to make money. See how that starts to clean all up? Looks nice. So I'm going to just kind of jump around a bit here, being very careful of what it is this line represents, and it's that puffy cheek. So I'm kind of going a thick and thin line here a little bit, just to give that some dimension. And then looking up here. So yeah, so we're doing character design, but ultimately we do want to finish them up as best we can. So this is our first attempt at that. So I wanted to show you this. So when we start getting creative and coming up with your own characters, you can do those working drawings and then ultimately color and finish. So if that a real portfolio piece to show what you can do with characters and have it look done. And often in a portfolio, if you're working in art, portfolios samples of all the different types of drawing you can do. And it should be a mixture of roughs, working drawings, and cleanup drawings, showing the whole process of how you've come up with various drawings and concepts and ideas. Ultimately, it's that finished drawing that people will see, so you want to make sure it's as good as possible. Now, here, just we can always go back and fine-tune some of our color now that we've got the black line there. Even this one, I'm using this brown, but I could go over, not to forget you can do this, just maybe go over with a little bit of red here. So again, we can always mix colors and blend a little bit here. There we go, so that looks a little better. So let me finish this eye. I just put some lines here, but SpongeBob, as when we were drawing him before, he's got very distinct eyelashes. So I want to give them a little thicker, sort of squared off structure. So here, now I'm going to turn this right upside down because I want to get this other eyeball done. There we go. So getting this, and again, just see the advantage of moving that page around and getting the arc of my wrist working the curvature of that line. And again, take your time, especially if this is the first time you've used pencil crayons and a marker. Give it your best shot. And you can always do it, I even recommend do a practice one and then try one that you're going to hand in and try and do a finished one. Like, you got lots of paper. Maybe do a practice. Maybe you just want to trace off a section and practice with your pencil crayons and your marker and such. And then do the full character and draw the whole character out. You see he's got a couple of, I've kind of marked in where he's got a couple of prickles there. There we go. And yeah, so just got into the detail of the face there. Here, let me do the outline of the character. And again, you don't have to do everything on one big line. You can go over, play with thicknesses, thick and thin. Again, we've got the one marker, the one thickness. So it depends too how big you did your original drawing. I like drawing big and taking up most of the page. So that kind of dictates what kind of, or how the thickness of the line looks, depending on what marker I've got to work with. So if you draw small, this will look like a thicker line. You draw big, and then it's going to look like a thinner line. Let me come down here. Just want to clean this up. Okay. So anyways, hopefully this stage you can have some fun with. This is where you really see it all come together as a finished drawing. And that can be very satisfying. I know people that do all right doing this sort of thing. Maybe not so much with pencil crayons, but doing finished artwork of existing characters. And what we know is fan art. And people can make some good money doing that, because a lot of fans, again, if in this case we got a SpongeBob fan, they might enjoy having a piece of original artwork depicting their favorite character. If you ever go to comic conventions and things, there's all sorts of booths there of artists doing their version of famous characters and things and selling them. Sometimes if they're very good, they'll make prints of the original artwork and sell prints at a better price, or more expensively selling the original artwork. So these are options. Oh, look at that, I forgot to do this. So working with marker, this always gets more challenging because you really don't want to make a mistake. If you really, this is why you got to take your time. If you really make a mess, it's going to be hard to cover that up. So this is where practice really helps. See, look at that, I made that line on there. Not so good. Again, that's me going a little too fast. Again, this is where you want a great deal of care and patience to get all that working really well. Okay, so hopefully this is all coming together. You're starting to see it, get it, that it works. Here is that little collar on his shirt. Yeah, he dresses well for a sponge. Nice white shirt, tie. Not so casual. Here we go. And remember, when we're doing this black line, to really reinforce that structure and perspective and dimension that we're looking at, that we built into our original drawing. We want to make sure we maintain that. There we go. So here. Now this belt part, that's what these little squares are. That's the belt kind of going around, and where These little sections is where you see, and I'm not sure, do we have a black pencil crayon? Yeah, maybe we got a pencil. There we go. Oh, wow, yeah, that's work. Nice and black. Maybe we don't have to use marker there. I can just use this black pencil crayon and fill that in. Again, when we get into shaded areas, like here and down here, don't use black to darken things. Just use a second color or just press firmer with the existing color. You don't want to create shadows and things using black, or at least you want to avoid that. It makes things end up looking very muddy. Whereas you use different tones of the same color or a complementary color over top. Like I had the yellow and then using the orange over top kind of mixes a nice darker shade for the yellow, as opposed to me going over and creating a gray. Looks, yeah, it doesn't look near as nice. So just some hints on color and how to use them. Okay, look at that. We're getting closer to finishing here. Again, it's just being careful, as accurate as you can. Again, these long straight lines, if you're more comfortable using a straight edge, a ruler or something, that's up to you. I kind of like the natural sort of character from a hand-drawn line without a mechanical straight edge. Yeah, see, I've gone a little dark on there. Doubled up the line, which I can go over and thicken some of these lines. Or ideally, if we had more variety in our art kit, if I had a thicker black marker, might have gone over and used it. So this is where, yeah, you just want to be careful, consistency in the line weight that you're using. Kind of using just that one, kind of going over but trying to stay within the line a little bit. And again, here I can go back and fill in some of that color. All right, there we go. Not looking too bad. And here we go. I'm just going to finish this hand off. So again, the original drawing, I want to make sure we really worked it out so that this hand looks right. That thumb coming over, overlapping. Then these fingers folded over, looking dimensional. And then this one folding right back on itself. And again, we kind of started out with a bit of a square or even a cube shape to figure out the depth of that, but then rounding it out with our line. So just reinforcing that. There we go. There. So almost there. And let me just finish off with our legs and our sock here. Now I want to make sure that this is a curved line, that it's showing, representing that that leg is a cylinder shape and that this sock is wrapping around that leg, as opposed to, yeah, you don't want to have a straight line going across, kind of ruins the effect. And now we'll get that shoe in here with that heel. And again, there's that dimensional structure coming back. So let's get the two elements. The toe of the shoe is a circle. The back here of the foot is a circle. And then you've got that protruding heel coming out. Kind of a caricatured cartoon version of how shoes work. I'm going to rotate this around again. Oh, that was my microphone falling over. My artwork hit it and knocked it over. Yeah, it's always nice to have a good setup, somewhere you're comfortable with, comfortable seat, comfortable angle. And again, my drawing surface here is slightly elevated at the top so that I'm looking more straight on at the artwork, so that I'm not viewing it or straining my neck trying to look straight down at it, that it's at a comfortable angle. So it's just finding, you know, all these little things to kind of make drawing fun and not physically painful, I could say. So let's see. So yeah, so we're just going to finish off with the black shoes. And again, I'm following the color that that SpongeBob is done in all of the imagery for the show, be it in the actual animation or still images, any promotional stuff and things, taking a look at all those references. And yeah. Oh, you know what I forgot here? Same as where I had a highlight here, we can have a highlight, and I messed up there. So we can have that highlight on the shoe. And again, you know, it might be an idea to color in the circle of the shape. Didn't do a good job on that one. This is where sometimes it's good to practice beforehand. So you've got a plan of attack. How am I going to color? What's the color going to be? So again, I'm using the black, not pressing way too hard, but trying to get as consistent a color as I can. And that's where I was kind of really wanting to darken here, that inset of the heel, so that that's a little darker. I'm not sure if that's coming across too well. But anyways, there we go. So give it your best shot. Experiment, play around, hopefully have fun. I mean, as I look at mine, all sorts of things that I could see that we could do to reinforce that perspective and dimension. By yeah, inside that white shirt would be a bit of shading. As I was adding on here, could add a little bit on the socks here being white, just give a little bit of a shaded area there. Lots of things that we can do to try and work it out. So have fun, experiment. Here I'm going to add just a little bit of shading to the hand on here. Again, you can go on and on and on just trying to get things working really nice. You know, even could do here, look at that, I could put, if I work very, very lightly, I could add just a little bit of blue here. So now, instead of being flat white area, put a very faint shadow here, and now it looks like a sphere happening. Hopefully, I don't know if that's too subtle for the camera. I don't want to overdo it, but it gives us that dimensional idea behind it. And where you make mistakes, where this dot here, I can scan it and do some tweaks in Photoshop or something, or if I had traditional whiteout, I could add a dot there. There's ways that you could try and fix and manipulate that artwork. But even ultimately, what I do now, I do a nice clean outline like I was showing, and I'll do the marker before any color, scan that, and then there's tricks in Photoshop in which I can color everything digitally, which is how most illustration is done, particularly in animation. The color's all left to digital, and that way it's very flexible, and you can experiment and play, and you're not stuck with you know, what you put down in paper and getting too nervous about it. All right, anyway, all great. Have some fun with a finish, and then we'll move on and get into your own characters.